God doesn't care about your wedding. God don't give two rips about your wedding. God does not care about how big and fat that diamond on your ring is. God cares that you two are now bound spiritually for life so you can serve his kingdom. Yeah. You can do that with a wedding band, for crying out loud. What is going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode on the Christian
Faith
podcast. Guys, my name is David Christian Hammond. I am here with my wife,
Mallory Faith Hammond.
Now, guys, to get you guys up to speed, yes, this podcast was biblically masculine. We had our co-host, Braden. We had a falling out, guys, purely due to business reasons. There was no beef. We're still friends. All is good. We're not planning on bringing back this podcast. I told Braden, hey, man, we just need to take a break to make sure we're all equally yoked, putting in the same amount of work. And then Braden actually said, let's pull the plug completely. So we were not planning on bringing this back. But due to spontaneous events, considering we already had 4,000 subscribers, it was always my YouTube channel. I was the one editing, et cetera, et cetera. We decided to bring it back with Mallory and I. Again, guys, there's no beef. We love Braden. We're still all friends. We're going to be preaching this summer, but just due to business reasons and each person putting in the same amount of work, it just was not fair on my end. I was putting in about 90% of the work. So we love them. All is good. But on this podcast, guys, moving forward, I'm going to let Mallory explain what the whole point of this is, and we'll begin.
So yeah, David and I felt inspired by the Holy Spirit, we believe, to start this podcast. As he mentioned, it's a very creative name of both of our middle names put together. Coincidentally, it's Christian and Faith. But yeah, we just figured, considering 90 to 95% of our conversations behind closed doors and off camera revolve around doctrine, theology, the modern church, the state that it's in, our opinions on it, what the Bible has to say, we figured it would be helpful and possibly edifying to you guys if we were to just press record on some of these topics.
So with that said, in the first episode, guys, we're going to be covering or going over why are no Christians in 2025 getting married?
Yeah, so just to get the ball rolling a bit, throw out some statistics out there. Marriage in general is plummeting significantly. I think there was like a small rise the past couple years, but people are arguing that's because of the rise of same-sex marriage, which obviously isn't the case in the church, hopefully. But it's just something David and I had been realizing more and more, either with people we used to be friends with or people that we see online. There's these men and women of God, whether, serving the Lord or claiming to be Christians, but we find them in their late 20s and 30s and they're still not getting married, and it's kind of going down the same pattern that the world is in. And we have a lot of thoughts about it, a lot of theories. So, David, if you want to get started.
Yeah, guys. So, simply put, we're going to be using our political background, apologetic, polemic. You guys know I'm an evangelist full-time, so I really study this stuff in depth, as well as Mallory, which is part of the reason we brought the podcast back. We're very equally yoked on that. So, guys, in a few years' time, by 2030, almost 50% of women will be childless and single. That is a statistical fact. You don't have to be Christian. You don't have to be Muslim, atheist. That is just how it is. Also, guys, almost 50% of divorces now are by Christians. So, Christianity, even though, yes, we're born-again believers, I'll be honest, I just think the majority of Christians, I don't believe they're born again. I think it's as simple as that, because we actually know statistically as well, too, that couples that stay together the longest, we're talking the lowest divorce rate, are Christian couples who pray together. Right? So it's undeniable, guys. It's not working. There's something wrong. Mallory and I have a ton of ideas on why this is happening. And I think to start it, because we're just going to let this free flow, it really just comes down to, first and foremost, you're not born again. Guys, majority of churches today, and this is just a fact as well, do not teach what it means to be born again. The Catholic Church definitely doesn't. Orthodox Church definitely doesn't. A lot of Protestant churches are a lot better, but even with that, guys, the majority of Protestant churches are just completely evangelical, hippie, goofy churches, or very lying signs and wonders Pentecostal churches. And again, this is not a beef with any one particular church. I think you can get saved at any church. Maybe not Mormonism or Jehovah's Witness, and maybe not Catholics and stuff, but you can find Jesus and get saved at any church. And by the way, Mallory and I we don't prescribe to a denomination. We're born again, Bible-believing Christians. But there is a lack or an absence of truth and simplicity in the gospel with modern churches. And because of that, there's a bunch, just an influx, guys, of unregenerated baby Christians, right? Well, they're not even babies because they're just unregenerated. And because of that, guys, because they're not being led by the Spirit, right? John 14:26, they're being led by really their own emotions. Because if you're not regenerated, you're being led by your flesh, guys, right? Jesus will still say, make no mistake, depart from me, I never knew you. They're being led by their emotions. They're getting unequally yoked, shacked up, and then the divorce, guys, is almost the exact same. There's no way if you're a born-again believer, you're going to have that same divorce rate.
Yeah, you touched on it briefly. Even if the Christians are born again and regenerated, we see a lot of churches, especially here in the West, milk feeding and bottle feeding Christians, basically. So, they may be hearing the gospel right. Praise God, we're saved by grace through faith alone, not by our works, lest any man boast. But there's nothing beyond that. They're not encouraging or equipping people to go onto the path of discipleship. And I think it comes down to like, people are so entitled today in and outside of the church that they don't know how to endure pain. They think that the slightest bit of inconvenience, it means, oh, woe is me. And again, because they're so entitled, they think that it's something that they should run away from rather than running towards. And something that Dave and I have learned even just in this first 3-4 months of marriage is it's painful a lot of the time. It's literally like another person being a direct mirror in front of you, and they're going to bring out the best in you and also the worst in you, and they're going to annoy the living crap out of you. And so a lot of people, again, with this like narcissism, to be completely honest, or avoidance of pain or difficult things, because they're not being properly discipled, they run away from it. The second that they may be courting people that very well could be from God, they're just so quick to throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I truly do believe, guys, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't care. I think, because there's this big idea going around with, especially with, really with a lot of churches, and I think they mean well, but you should not be getting married the second you find Jesus. That is the stupidest advice I've ever heard. That's kind of like getting your driver's license, right? Day one, you got your driver's license, go buy like in $1 million Lambo or something like that. Dude, you are going to crash the crap out of it. You start with the bummy little Honda CRV. That's what I started with. Heck, I still have that if I was back in Canada. Okay, I love that car. And you slowly build your way up as your experience goes up. Like marriage, guys, and again, this is a bit more of my opinion. I'm not saying if you got married right away, it can never work. No, relax. But marriage is such, man, you are playing with, as a man, to protect you, you're playing with this woman's soul. If you think like the second you find Jesus, first off, dude, you don't even know what the Christian walk is yet. Why would God send you a woman for you to take care of her soul if you really can't even take care of yours? So what I'm saying is I truly do believe the biggest reason why, first and foremost, we'll speak about divorce later. They really go hand in hand, but the majority of Christians are not getting married is because you're not ready. It's as simple as that, guys. I was on my Pollock for about 4 years, right? If you're new to this, yeah, Polylark is basically, right, you're single celibate serving the Lord. And after about the 4-year mark, where I was really stewarding correctly, I was showing God. What you guys need to understand this too. And again, this is a root of the hippie evangelical churches. God has no reason to bless you with anything. If he has no reason to, if he doesn't see fit that you're a good steward, he doesn't have to bless you with anything. I say that to myself. God didn't have to bless me with a wife. God didn't have to bless me with a ministry. You guys need to understand that salvation and discipleship, the Christian walk, are completely different. God promises, yes, for all those that believe on the Son, Jesus Christ, to find eternal life. That's his promise. Amen. He does not promise you that you're going to find a sweet little Latina honey or make a lot of money with your ministry or whatever, guys. Okay? I truly do believe that comes because you're stewarding. You're showing God, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to take care of a woman. I'm ready to take care of a flock of people. So God will add that to you, similar to Matthew 6:33. Which is a complete different topic. But to simplify, guys, the reason Christians aren't getting married is because there's no reason for you to get married, dude. You are not ready. I'll tell you guys this, thank God it took 4 years for God to build me up, because now that I'm with Mallory, like, I'm able to handle it. But you guys, like, it's not easy, man. You are going to have what I think too, and I'll let you go. I'm kind of just yapping, which is the point of this podcast.
It's okay.
Guys, I'll be brutally honest with you. We have the wrong idea of what marriage is. There's a lot of hippie, effeminate Christian men that are just glorifying marriage. Like, it's my missing, infinity stone. If I have this, all will be sunshine and rainbows. And it's like, dude, you're wrong. Marriage is pain. It is service, right? What does Ephesians 5 say? 5:25, to love your wife as Christ loved the church, self-sacrificially. Where's this hippie? Heck, maybe even I kind of believe this. I don't think I was ever that bad, but I'm here to tell you guys, marriage is such a beautiful thing. Yes, it's only been a few months, but I'll tell you what, man, if you are not ready to put your nuts on the line and to put away your selfish desires, do not get married. Christian men are not married. They're not ready to get married. That comes later in the path, so you will be.
While you were talking, it actually reminded me of kind of the ideology subconsciously that feminism pushes out, where they want all these rights without the responsibility.
Right.
And that's a conversation for a different day, the fruits of feminism, how that seeped into the church and, of course, in society today. But that's exactly, again, while you're talking, that's what it reminded me of. A lot of Christians, they want that honey boo boo thing that's going to fulfill their lust desires, even though, if you guys don't know already, marriage doesn't just take lust away. In fact, it can increase, if you weren't faithfully walking that part of your relationship with God previously. in that area or discipleship. And to add to that, I think a lot of people, they say they want this rite of marriage. They want that best friend that they can do life with, which is amazing, or even they want those kids that they can eventually have. But they've been so lied to through social media on what that actually looks like. They have a very perverted and not godly image, like you were saying, of what marriage or even parenthood actually is. And just to give you guys some examples, I may go off on a rant, I apologize in advance, but all throughout social media, I see these women bragging about how their men are spoiling them. And there's women in the comments complaining, well, my husband doesn't do that for me, even though I'm almost positive their husband does provide, their husband does protect. But because they don't live out this like Prince Charming that's being portrayed in a lot of men on social media, they think that their marriage is less than. And then same thing with men, they're being pushed out these lustful images of women constantly. So that's going to plant seeds subconsciously of like, well, my wife doesn't look like that. And all it does is it causes comparison in marriage. And I think causes Christians specifically to lose track on the whole point of what marriage actually is between a man and a woman blessed under God. Is it's to fill a mission that brings God glory. That is the whole point of marriage, which I'm sure David will be getting into. But again, because of social media and society around us, we think it's about us, but the Bible makes it very clear that love is not self-serving. Marriage, true biblical marriage, is two people trying to outserve one another. And I just think that's simply a lost art in the church, and quite frankly, just not talked about nearly enough in a lot of modern churches. So
yeah, one thing I'll tell you guys, right, we're just going to speak on a ton of things here. For my young men, because I know a lot of guys are watching this, or at least I hope you are, man, because it's still a man podcast, man and woman podcast, 50-50. If you guys are dealing with lust problems, do not get married, man. Like, you know, Paul says, right, it's better for a man to stay single unless he's burning desire, go get married. I just want you guys to understand that lust problem doesn't go away. You know, just because you're able to satisfy that, which I'll be brutally honest, I don't know the exact stats on this, but I speak to a lot of guys very closely, and I'm going to assume that this is another reason why the divorce rate's so high. A lot of Christian couples aren't even having sex, so that's a complete different subject. But if you were dealing with a lust problem going into marriage, porn problem, yada yada yada, you're cooked, dude. Do not think it's going to get easier. I'll tell you guys this. You know, I was on NoFap for about 5 years. I had one point where I really kind of slipped up for maybe about a week's time, but for the most part, guys, I was on full semen attention. I did not fornicate before, being born again. I was, from that point on, for the 4 years, I was completely celibate, guys. Because I had that under control, I, for the most part, was good with Mallory. But I'll let you guys know this. Even I got hit. And I think Mallory said this point to me a little while ago. I think, what percentage of OnlyFans guys are married? 90%?
Oh, I think it was 90% of OnlyFans users are married
so
men.
90% of OnlyFans users, or at least something high, are married men. And I will be brutally honest with you guys, I didn't subscribe to it. I didn't sign up, relax. But I never, when I was single, I would never consider doing that, subscribing to OnlyFans, nothing like that. But when you're married, guys, you get hit by bigger demons. That was the first time. There were 2 times in particular, I felt that allure of you know what, maybe I should just you guys know how it gets you. You get on Instagram, you see the thing, you go to the link, and you're like, well, should I have this, da-da-da? Of course, guys, they're just thoughts, right? Our thoughts are not always our own, okay? That can be completely from Satan. But I just find it very interesting that I was getting those thoughts when married opposed to single. And the reason for that, guys, is because when you're married, you are subconsciously locked. You're locked down. And I think that's what it's very simple psychology, guys. If you know you can't have something, you're going to crave it more. It's as simple as that. If you buy a house and you're stuck in that house, what are we naturally going to do? We're going to get FOMO. We're going to get the grass is greener on the other side. And I'm here to tell you guys that I got that as a married man. Right? So if you are dealing with lust, you got to really close those doors, man, because make no mistake, they will come into marriage. And it's a completely different topic we'll speak of. I'll give you tips, yada, yada, because it does get better. I'm much more attracted to Mallory now. You guys need to understand with marriage, you grow in love. At least, again, it's only been a few months, so go easy on me. But with those 3 months that have gone on, you grow in attraction, you grow in love. And it's a beautiful thing. But if you don't know that up front, man, you can really cause damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's something that I truly do believe is the biggest reason why Christians specifically aren't getting married. We touched on, them not being able to suffer well, having, narcissistic attitudes and mindsets and stuff. But I think a really big part of that is people fail to realize that God is not going to give you a perfect person that comes in perfect packaging. I think even more so for the men, because you guys are the leaders and y'all are going to be called to train us wives even more than the wives would like train, I guess you could say, their husbands, because we help each other grow more and more to look like Christ. But again, because of what's being pushed out on social media, if they've struggled with lust in the past or through pornography, OnlyFans, whatever it is, I really see a lot of men subconsciously putting other Christian girls at that same standard. They're like, oh, you have to be my mom. You have to be loving. You have to be ready to have kids. And you have to be a 10 out of 10 model. Like, I'm sorry, but especially if you want a young girl, you're not... 99% of cases, it's not going to be like that. I heard a great sermon one time talking about how, again, mainly towards the husband, God will hand you the raw materials of a wife. And he's going to entrust you with the responsibility to be able to build that woman up to become the woman that you want her to be. And most importantly, who God wants her to be. It's not talking about you trying to fit her into the OnlyFans perfect 10 out of 10 model frame. But it is so true. And we've seen the fruit even in our first 3-4 months of marriage. When you're treating a woman right, when you're leading her correctly, she's naturally going to become more prettier. She's going to have any sort of like masculinity that may have turned off men previously being purged out of her, because I feel safe. I'm able to step more into my feminine frame. So again, like, I don't know if you want to add anything.
It was a great point, guys. I really like what Mallory said as far as God handing you the raw materials. You know, here's another thing too, guys. And yes, I changed my hat. Okay, I just put it from backwards to frontwards, and not that any of you care. Is that the same David? Yeah, it's the same David. Anyways, yeah. So God's gonna send you the raw materials, guys. And you know, I'll be brutally honest. It affected me, man. Dude, it's gonna affect every man. I'm gonna keep this podcast so raw with you guys that you're gonna say, you know what? I gotta subscribe. Turn on that notification bell, because ain't nobody saying it the same. Yeah, dude. You guys need to understand this. It's a bit of soteriology for you guys, right? When you're born again, if you're not born again, all you are is a zombie. You're a dead man walking. We just have our flesh, right? The wages of sin is death, all right? Now, when you're born again, this is 1 John 3:9, right? It says that the seed of God, he who has been born of God cannot sin, because the seed of God does not. When you're born again, you now have the Holy Spirit. That's what does not sin. When we go to heaven, guys, our flesh is bye-bye, okay? It's our spirit. What you guys need to understand, though, Paul makes it clear in Galatians 5:17 that it's that spirit and flesh that wage war to the day we die. So this is a completely different topic. We're not going to go into it. But what you need to understand is you still have your flesh. I have my flesh. That never fully goes away. We know in Romans 7:15-24, Paul speaks of the wrestle, right? I do the things that I don't want to do, the things I do. So even Paul, guys, was not sinless perfection. So for any of these works-based people, you need to learn better theology, man, okay? We are not saved by our works. Our works don't maintain our salvation. If that was the case, you would be going to hell alongside all of us, okay? There'd be no point for Jesus to die. Anyways, though, with that said, yeah, you're going to deal with these things, man. Like when I married Mallory, and I'll just be honest with you guys, and this is, you know, I'm sure in Mallory's case too a little bit, but I married Mallory not because of her looks. I married Mallory because of the promise God gave to me and how it would further glorify God. Like, there were things with Mallory 3 months ago that like I didn't think Mallory was a 10 out of 10. And I think that was my fault, that I was letting you know that I was even brainwashed by social media and the websites and TikTok. And I know how much more other men are brainwashed. And I believe, this is the point I was trying to make, the majority of men are not getting married as Christians because your filter is wrong. You're wearing sex-colored, rose-colored goggles. If I had that, I can guarantee you guys had that, because I was really good with my lust problem beforehand. You need to be really careful, man. I can almost guarantee you this. God's going to bring you the girl, like Mallory said, or the guy, because I ain't no perfect by any means. And that's what I was going to allude to. How we grow into marriage, right? You grow into loving them, but God's going to send you that woman who maybe in your standard is not going to look like that dream girl I had when I was growing up. Mallory wanted to date like a cowboy initially. I ain't no cowboy, right? So it goes both ways, but you need to look at, number one, what God has called, but two, what are her internal traits? Mallory's internal traits were 20 out of 10, man. She was good at evangelizing, polemics, apologetics. We agreed politically, dude, everything. She could cook, clean. She got a fat butt. I probably cut that part out. She got everything, man. And I really mean it, like everything. But I wasn't the most attracted to her. But guess what, man? I put away those selfish desires. One of my favorite verses, 1 Corinthians 13:11, Paul says that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I reasoned as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. And I put away those little egoic, but you know, she's not this looking or this looking. And I trusted God, what he said. David, yes, I want you to marry her because it's going to glorify my kingdom. And because I did that, guys, guess what? God came through, made her objectively prettier. And I love her, yes, externally, but also, and most importantly, internally, more and more as time goes on. So use that as a testimony. Do not be deceived by modern TikTok, really like Pornhub. I'll be honest with you, because TikTok and Instagram, even a lot of Christian influencers, you look like whores. It's disgusting, man. It is pathetic. Do not be deceived.
Yeah, and that aligns with scripture. We read about it in Proverbs 31. I believe it's verse 30. I'm not quite sure. But where it talks about beauty and charm are fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. And I think a lot of men and even women, you know, when looking at other Christian men to possibly date or court or marry, they in theory say that that's true and be like, yeah, I've heard a lot of brothers in Christ specifically be like, I mean, the same thing applies to my sisters, but I've heard a lot of brothers say, oh, I just want a girl who loves Jesus. And what else do they say?
She's just like oh, cute.
Yeah.
She's just
yeah,
cute,
that
loves
she's
Jesus.
cute. She loves Jesus. And I've called quite a bit of them out. And I'm like, there's plenty of those girls here at our local church, but they will completely shoot them down. And again, it's because they don't live up to that cute or pretty standard that they've been brainwashed to see that the porn stars and everybody do. Or to be quite frank, maybe they just don't have the biggest boobs or the biggest butt.
Right.
And the same thing applies to my sisters. They say, oh, I just want a guy who loves Jesus, who's going to lead me, make me feel protected. But what are you going to do when you get that highly emotionally intelligent man and he's correcting you as a man who is a leader should, a man who has a strong sense of discernment and isn't afraid to call you out on your bullcrap? The second that a man may start doing that to a girl, they think like, oh, he's controlling. I don't actually want to be with him. He may have anger issues, even though men biologically designed by God are going to be more territorial. They are going to have more of a proclivity towards anger. That's not an excuse, but just because... and it's a completely different topic, but just because a man isn't as soft as like a woman doesn't mean that they're wrong. That's actually a really good sign to marry that man.
God forbid a man's actually, he has a ball sack and he's aggressive.
Seriously.
What a joke.
Yeah. But again, I think it just goes back to the people are so soft today. They don't want to take on the challenge that comes with marriage. They don't want to deal with the self-sacrifice that comes with that. And again, they're just selfish. They think, oh, I deserve this girl who is 10 out of 10 in every way, but I'm giving a strong 5.
Right.
Like, you have to be very honest with yourself and be like, okay, where do I stand? And that's what I need to be keeping my eyes out, not necessarily going and like pathetically throwing yourself at people, but you have to be honest. And I think just a good rule of thumb, I'll speak to my sisters, but I think this applies to my brothers as well. Like, if you find yourself praying so often of like, God, I want my husband to be this, this, and this. He needs to be making this amount of money. He needs to be da-da-da. How much more, if not the same, or how much more are you praying those same things for God to create you to be that woman who is going to support that strong, high quality man? Mm-hmm. For a lot of cases that I've seen, it's not much. Again, they're just narcissistically and selfishly expecting so much, expecting God to bless them. God doesn't have to give you anything. Even if you do your Paulina arc, which Dave and I like to call it, like where you're focused, celibate, serving the Lord, you can do all that right. And God bringing that wife and husband is still a blessing out of his goodness, not because you deserved it. Right. So I think if people would really humble themselves and, again, just learn how to be a servant in any way, shape, or form, that'll prepare you to have the proclivity, the endurance and the character to be able to be a good spouse to somebody.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, guys. And again, I know it sounds kind of like we're coming at you. It's not. This is the problem, guys. We have a lack of individuals, a lack of churches. The majority of pastors have no courage, no nuts in between their legs. Guys, there are no more elders, and I'm not saying I'm a pastor. This is actually why we're doing this. There's no one telling you the truth anymore. Everyone is so afraid, always walking on eggshells. And you know what the fruit of that is? Modern evangelical Christianity, where the majority of Christians are getting divorced. I mean, we look no different from the world, guys. We have no godly standard. This is why the world makes fun of Christians, guys. Now, make no mistake, we're always going to be seen as fools, right? Oh, you believe in this, this. Okay, but like, I do believe, too, that Christians should still be the smartest, most equipped, healthiest. Dude, if you're applying the Bible, you're going to be an upright man. You understand? You're not going to be a lazy, slobby, entitled, effeminate man and vice versa for a woman. You're not going to be a Jezebel, angry, feminist, blue hair, wearing a Jesus cross, John 3:16. At a certain point, guys, we need to honestly look at ourselves in the mirror and just take the L's. Like, again, with Mallory and I, it's because, and again, we're not perfect by any means. We miss by a long shot, but we acknowledge those shortcomings. Like with myself and Mallory, when you marry someone, you're taking on all their baggage. Yeah. And you have to understand that. So Mallory kind of knew early on that like my baggage was like, you know, I'm a little hurt sometimes. So I get a little
Heated.
heated, a little fired up. And now I think God can use that. I think that's actually needed more than ever. But that was something Mallory had to take into consideration, something I had to take into consideration with Mallory. She had a bit more of like a masculine demeanor. Of course, she's still a girl and she's great, but I had, and I still do have to kind of work on that with her as she has to work on that with myself. But so here's what I'm saying. God's going to send you the raw materials. Guys, we have to lower our standards. That's really what I'm saying, and that's what Mallory's saying. We're too selfish. It's narcissism. It's like, if he's not perfect, if she's not, you're not going to get married, man. Yeah. Okay? It's just not going to happen. All right? You're flawed. I'm flawed. We're flawed. And when we can lower those standards and now just listen to what God wants. If God's highlighting someone to you, even if they're not a perfect 10 out of 10, you make them a 10 out of 10, man. And right. I'm telling you, the whole point of this podcast is to show that I've grown so much more in attraction and love to Mallory. Not because I dated her for those reasons, but because I was willing to bite the bullet, put aside my egoic David desires, and trust what God wanted. Who do you think knows you more, man? You or God? God.
Yeah. I think that comes down to fearing God above man.
Exactly.
I think the root of everything we were just talking about is because people aren't actually being taught how to go down that path of discipleship, how to pick up their cross, how to grow in love more and more with God. Mm-hmm. Is they still fear man. I mean, if we're being honest, that's, now that I think about it, that was a big thing that kind of, well, we didn't really struggle with doubt so much. We knew God brought us together. But for me, I was letting the opinions of other people get in my head, even though I knew that you were the one God had brought to lead me for the rest of my life. And even you, there was some comments made because there was, still some issues with the attraction end of like you thinking that I don't really want to be seen with, somebody that I'm not like 10 out of 10 attracted to. And if you guys think that that's messed up, then you maybe you aren't ready for marriage because, in marriage or in courting, you need to have hard conversations like this. And I never shamed David because of it. In fact, like, when he came to me about this, I straight up told you, I don't think we've shared about this publicly, but like, I was like, look, you don't have to be with me. Like, God can send you somebody else who is objectively prettier, but you know that you will not be able to fulfill your mission the same way nearly to the same extent as if you were with me. And I think that's why it's so important to like fulfill God's calling that he has for you individually. So, beyond a shadow of a doubt, God really did handcraft this person for me, not to look good as a side piece or like a pretty purse, but because together we can go significantly farther in fulfilling God's mission over our lives than we could apart.
Yeah, one thing I want to tell you guys, this is a bit of story time, which I've made very clear a lot of times, but I'll do it again to fill you guys up. So the whole point of this podcast, this like episode, and again, we don't plan this, guys. This is all just spirit led. We need to stop being selfish. Yeah. The reason I was I wouldn't say I was close, but the reason I had doubts of why I didn't want to marry Mallory was because I was thinking with my flesh. I was thinking of what's just going to benefit me. Screw what God's saying. God's saying, you're going to win more souls. This is going to advance my kingdom. I don't care. What's going to look good on me as like a side piece? Are people going to approve? Guys, I wrestled with this. And if you're a man saying that you're not, you're full of crap, dude. You are full of crap. I was close to swearing, but I'm not. You're full of crap. Okay? This is why the majority of men are still not married. And then they flame me for like actually saying the truth of what men are thinking about. You guys are cowards. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of what you guys think. Grow up, man. Anyways, the whole point of what I was trying to say, sorry guys, I just get a little passionate. I love you, man. It's just no, guys, you got to give me a break. No one's saying this stuff. If I saw YouTubers while I was courting say this stuff, it would have given me so much peace and assurity. But because I didn't find that, I really had to go through it. So what I'm saying is that we got to lower our standards, right? At the end of the day, we have to start fearing God over man. And this is what I was going to tell you guys. When I got God's promise, because I alluded to that beforehand, and now look, so this is some of you guys. I'm not a heebie-jeebie Christian that like prays 18 hours a day and speaks in these goofy fake tongues that 98% of you guys, it's not real. It's a joke. But I still felt nonetheless, guys. I was driving home. This is after Mallory and we first met. And I was driving home and I was praying to God. I was in my secret place, guys, right? God, do you want me to do this? Because I'll be honest, the spirit is willing, right? But my flesh is weak. What did I say in Galatians 5:17? To walk in the spirit so we do not fulfill the lust of the flesh. They were going back and forth. And I vividly remember, guys, I cannot make this up on that car ride back home. I felt the strongest check in my spirit of God saying, David, it is not about you. And man, did that smack the fear of the Lord in me. I felt like Job when God was like, who are you to question what I do? And do you guys really have those sobering moments where like, man, I felt so insignificant in that moment. Like all my fleshly desires of like, man, did I have enough money? It all just was like on full display of like, who the heck do you think you are? You think this is about you? You think I orchestrated so you could just be happy? Do you understand how I can wipe you out in a second? And then we need more fear of the Lord. I'll tell you guys that. And when I had that, that was really kind of like God's checking me, right? Or you could say God's promise of like, I need you. This is going to fulfill the mission. And when I had that, guys, I relied on that. And I'm just telling you guys, it's like a beautiful, happily ever after story. If you can do that, I truly do believe that is the epitome of Matthew 6:33. First seek the kingdom of God and all his righteousness and allow these things to be added. Because guess what? I did that. I took that. Like I told you guys, those things that I was more insecure about, I'm not insecure about at all. Or if they are, it is like almost minute, nothing. And I'm sure it's the same way with Mallory and myself. Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
Dang, I'm screwed. But that's okay. I'm the man, so it don't matter.
No, you hit it on the head. We talked about how the root of all of these things that we were talking about, these issues, comes down to a fear of man. What is that? A lack of the fear of the Lord. Yeah. And I want to point out too, or reiterate what David was talking about. It wasn't just because of my physical appearance at the time, which was objectively very different. It was also just a fear of like David was living like this Batman bachelor in like Canada, and so that can be tempting of like, I don't want to leave that behind, you know. And especially as a man, I can only imagine, or like, well, dang, I'm gonna be mainly providing. I don't know if I want to spend all this money on this girl. But again, like you were saying, it comes down to God. What do you want? It does not matter what we want, especially if we're claiming to be these disciples of Christ and like, God, I live for you, all glory to Jesus. Right. But like, is your life really reflecting that? Is your daily decisions really reflecting that? You're going to hear David and I quite a bit on this podcast come against like the goofy evangelical Christians. And I myself, I'm not going to say I have a bone to pick necessarily, but I've been a part of these churches for quite some time. And it was very frustrating when I would see people worshiping, and I'm not saying that there's not a place for worship. I myself worship on a daily basis, but when you're worshiping in songs and everything, and you're saying like, you know, you want to do more for God, God use me, or I love you. And it's like, well, prove it. Jesus said the same thing. If you love me, you're going to keep my commandments. Are you going to do what I asked you to do? Are you going to take on this burden, this challenge of like this other woman or this man? Because that's exactly what it is. It's not just some fairy tales, you know. It really does all go back to like our walk with the Lord. Again, a lot of people are still preaching this discipleship or gospel is like, oh, your life looks like sunshine and rainbows and cotton candy after you get saved. And it's like, no, you're actually a target for the enemy now. And that's exactly how marriage is Satan hates marriage.
Good luck.
Yes, he's going to attack you. And this is kind of like a completely separate thought, but to go alongside why I believe Christians, a lot of them aren't getting married today. Again, the root is still the fear of man, but they're getting married for a wedding. And that like stresses a lot of men out because it's like, well, dang, I don't have this much, or my family doesn't have this much to be able to pay for it. And I say this, David humbly admitted that he struggled with these things. So I'm going to humbly admit that I struggled with this as a woman primarily, because it's the woman that mainly plans the wedding that wants this, you know, her fairy tale Pinterest board wedding or whatever. But as much as I was walking down this path of discipleship, as much as I thought I like wasn't materialistic and I really just wanted to do what God was calling me to do, when God was telling us to get married at a pretty quick time frame, my flesh hesitated. And I was like, but wait, like we need to have a wedding, even if it's very small. And I was freaking out because it's like, you know, we were thinking it's going to be like $5,000-$10,000. And I'm like, we need photos to be able to post because then people are going to think we got married for the wrong reasons. And I was stressing out about this for a few days. And I finally just got that same check of the fear of the Lord of like, why do you care about what man has to say if I'm trying to bring you guys together? This was God speaking to me directly. And again, I think this is like a loving rebuke to my sisters. I didn't even have a Pinterest board wedding fairy tale, like idolizing my wedding day, but that still affected me because we see it all over social media. And but that's just a loving correction to my sisters of like, maybe you need to start viewing marriage for what it actually is, which is again, sacrifice, and not this big celebration one day that we have with 100 people that some of them we don't even talk to all the time. And that'll actually take a lot of pressure off of your future husband or the person that you're going to court. Because again, I can only imagine how much of a stress that is on the man.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. The whole point of this episode, now that I'm coming to realize it, is we just care way too much about what man thinks, including David, including Mallory. We are not exempt from this, guys. And we're telling you from people that were further along in our Christian walk, like we objectively did more than, at least here in the West, we're like 95% of Christians, whether that's starting ministries, going out evangelizing, preaching. So if you're not even doing that, especially as a man, how dare you think you're ready for marriage, dude? You're on level 0. You're on level 1. If you can't share the gospel to a stranger, if you can't get behind the mic and rip a testimony, and you're complaining on where's your wife, dude, respectfully, you're a joke. Yeah, guys, so based on the weddings, right? I really just want this podcast to expose all of us, guys, with your heart posture on how much we still care about what man thinks. Like, I vividly remember, and Mallory really came clutch with this. This is another reason I knew that she was from God. I was, because I guess it's kind of what I thought. I didn't have a Christian making videos like this, which I wish I did. I thought I was like, man, I got to spend like 10 grand on a wedding ring, right? And I was telling her like, I'm going to, and really that was my ego. A big part of it was my ego. And like, did I have 10 grand to drop? I guess, but like now looking at it, I should not have done it. It just would have made the stress a lot higher. Okay.
Now your heart posture behind it was really good. I remember you telling me like you wanted to show me how much you valued me.
Right. Yeah. So, but where I was going, guys, is Mallory was like, look, like David, I'll be honest, that sounds really nice and that's great. But I just don't think it's smart. I'm okay you spending, let's say, 2 grand on wedding rings and using the rest of that money towards food, groceries, rent, townhouse, like saving actually for your future. So I say this to both men and women. We are spending way too much on really, I'm going to be honest with you guys, borderline useless things. And it's because of what man thinks. Mallory and I probably had the most humble, I wouldn't even call it a wedding. We didn't even have a wedding, guys. We got eloped in a courthouse. And we did that because, one, we were both on a time crunch. I was in Canada. I'm coming now to the States. I didn't have 20 grand to drop on a wedding, man. And you know what? I'll be honest. The vast majority of you Christians don't either. You're lying to yourself. You're in debt, man. You do not have that money, okay? You can fool the world. You can fool you killed it. You are struggling behind closed doors now. And I know because I speak to you guys and I see you face to face. We put on these personas, guys. We just got to be honest. If that makes me look kind of like hobo-ish or like, oh, David, you only got a 2 grand wedding ring or, you saved for the house, then so be it, man. Okay. And this is an open, loving rebuke and correction for all of us, myself included, that we just care too much about what man thinks. We are way too indoctrinated with the modern world. We are Christians, guys. We're zealous for good works. We are set apart, peculiar people. I'm telling you guys, God's plan is never, and here's the thing too, a lot of people think, and this is what I thought, guys, I didn't even know elopement was an option. I thought that you had to have this big wedding before yada, yada, yada. And because no one made these videos. I'm telling you, I do not think, or let me put it this way, okay? Let me just calm down. God doesn't care about your wedding. God don't give 2 rips about your wedding. God does not care about how big and fat that diamond on your ring is. God cares that you two are now bound spiritually for life so you can serve his kingdom. Yeah. You can do that with a wedding band, for crying out loud. Now, look, you should have a good time. Get some good photos. Yes, Mallory, we brought her family out there. We took some awesome photos. It's my screensaver. I love it. We got the wedding photos here, guys, right? This is just like we actually got this photo shoot for free. But yes, guys, we're not saying you just got to be a hobo and not have fun with it. But really, guys, please check your heart posture, because I would rather you, and I guarantee for a fact, God would rather you get married in an unfashionable way than you push it off. Now you don't get married because you care too much about what your aunt grandma thought about you. Sorry, Grandma Susan, you don't matter.
My grandma Lily actually came to our wedding. So
yeah, she
shout
was
out
cute.
to my grandma.
For our elopement, guys, in the courthouse.
Yeah.
Based.
And just to give you guys like exact numbers for our thing, and hopefully this can give some of y'all like a green light of, hey, that's what me and my girlfriend were thinking, maybe like we're getting all these thoughts or, opinions from other people of, that's weird. Why are you doing that? Well, I think our total thing, our rings together were like $1,500.
for both.
My dress I paid myself was like $150.
$100, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Canadian, so it was like cheaper.
Yeah. That's about
what else is it? We had like $100 for the actual like ceremony thing that went on at the courthouse. Yeah, maybe like $20 in gas.
Free photo shoot. We got blessed, and God, tell him how God's gonna pull through too, because we met the guy who told me that I could even get eloped in the first place. I didn't know any of this.
But yeah, we share that just because it was actually somebody else that came into like both of our lives mutually. It was one of like your fans that came in. Visited us at UTD the first time David came to Dallas. We hadn't even talked about liking each other, but like God was using him and telling his story about him and his wife got eloped to plant that seed in David's mind of like, oh wait, this is acceptable. You know, most of society may not accept it as a valid marriage or wedding, or it's like you got, like you were saying, you cheaper hobos, but what is it in the sight of God? You know, God doesn't look at the outward appearance. He looks at the heart. He's like, why are these people wanting to come together to serve me? And so, you know what, if you really do sacrifice, like even if you could have this big extravagant wedding, which majority of people cannot, God's going to bless that even more, because you know what, you're also showing him you're going to be a good steward of what I'm going to give you. And this is a video for a completely different day. I'm going to make it separate on my channel later this week, but there is a direct correlation to people who spend over $30,000 on their wedding, or I believe it was $20,000. I don't remember the exact number. I'll have to clarify, but they're close to 50% more likely to get a divorce later on.
I believe it.
Yeah, and they're breaking down the statistics here in the West and in America, where people are spending even more than they would for a down payment on a house on their wedding, and they end up going into marriage with debt if they didn't already have existing debt beforehand. So this is just a loving encouragement for you guys of like, you don't have to, and nor do I think you should be going about marriage and weddings the way that the world does. I think it's very much a red flag if you're doing things that look exactly like the world. We're supposed to be set apart.
And one thing I would say too, this is a complete different side tangent, but like if you're a man, not in all cases, because we know guys, like a lot of us Christians, we should get married young. I'm 27, Mallory I was 26, she was 21 when we got married. And I would even say that's kind of a little late. Like I know Christians who get married like 20, 21. But where I'm going, guys, is like, if you as a man already have all that money to begin with to like drop 50 grand, 20 grand on a wedding, all this stuff, that's a huge red flag to me too, because unless you're using that for the kingdom, you're an idolater. And the vast majority of Christian men I know that do have a lot of money, you're idolaters. Like, I'm not saying God can't bless that marriage. Absolutely he can, guys. And God, you know, he's fine with us being wealthy. Yeah, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Money is fine, guys. I plan to be very affluent. I would say I'm actually more affluent than probably most Christians, most men my age. But where I was going, guys, is like, I'm telling you guys, our heart posture is just in the wrong place. As a man, you guys do not need to spend that much on a wedding. If you are with, my brother, if you're with your girlfriend right now, you know, you're not even supposed to have a girlfriend. Mallory and I courted and then got married in 2 months. I'm not saying it has to be that fast, but if you have your girlfriend right now and you guys are fornicating, you guys are cohabitating, living together, you need to get married or you need to move on to the next chick. There's no excuse. You see, I'm telling you guys, we as men, we're like, oh, I'll get married in a few more years' time when I have more money. You have enough money now.
Yeah.
You got enough money now. Go marry her. And this is exposing a lot of men. You don't want to marry her. You guys, you're playing house together, okay? You need that fire. It's almost kind of like a fat person, right? He's like, oh, you know, I don't have enough money for a gym membership. Okay, well, that gym membership's $10 a month. Oh, well, didn't you just buy like a burrito that was more than 10? Oh, and it exposes us. And we don't like to be exposed, guys. And I'm here to tell you that, like, you got to check your heart posture. Do not live in sin. And I'm not saying we're any holier than you guys know, but like, you have the finances. Even if you're broke, dude, you can go get wedding bands. You don't even have to drop $1,500. My buddy dropped, I think it was like $100 on Amazon, a wedding band, and then 100. If you got $200, you can get married. Fact.
And I feel like a lot of people, I can already imagine them in the comments saying like, that's so irresponsible. But some of the best advice I heard, even from a young age, is 2 are better than 1. I would say for like women to keep an eye out for your future husband, as long as he has vision and some level of like receipts to prove that he doesn't just say things, but he actually goes out and does it. And you have the skill sets and the desire, you know, for men, keep out on this, that the woman has the skill sets, the desire, the motivation to help you alongside that vision. Get married. Don't stay in this gray area. That was exactly David and I's heart posture behind getting married quickly in less than 2 months was, I don't want to be in this gray area. I don't want to feel like I can't fully submit to you because there's not like that final commitment under God. I want to be your full-time helpmate. And so like I was saying, the best marriage advice that I got and, you know, heard even at a young age is like, stop trying to get better on your own separately. Right. Come together. That's obviously like less bills and everything, but you now get to full time. The wife helps the husband and the husband able to fully fulfill the mission that God has for them. And then the finances are going to come with that.
Yeah, guys, I think it just really, this is like a loving correction and rebuke and really just realization. Because again, guys, this is the first time I've been married, okay? So we're just documenting. We're not saying we're any better than you guys know, but like, I just wish, this is why I speak with so much passion, right? I wish I knew what I knew now 5 months ago. If I knew, oh wow, I don't need to drop 10 grand on this and all it just would have taken so much stress off me, man. Yeah. And I'm here to tell you guys that you can make it happen. Mallory and I have an amazing house, a little townhouse God's blessed us with here. It's a lot bigger than my old place, I'll tell you that. I'm married to a beautiful woman, and like Mallory helps out more than I ever could have imagined. Like we both have so many ministries together. We do ministry together. Like it's such a beautiful thing, but like I had to take that L of like, you know, not looking as cool to the world to please God. And guess what? That's what we're called to do. Because I did that, God was then able to bless us, or will continue to bless us financially, or with these more like, I don't even want to say worldly things, because it's really not what it matters, but it's all a paradox, guys. Yeah. And that's what stewardship is, right? Like, look, what does Jesus do, right? With the parable of the talents and the money exchanges, right? He gave one guy 1 bag of money, 5 bags, 10 bags, or 1 bag, 3 bags, 5 bags. The people that invested it, Jesus gave them more. He was like, bet, you know, to whom much is given, much will be required. You did great. Here's more. The person who didn't use it correctly, we care too much about what man thought. Oh, I don't have enough money. I'm not ready. Jesus took that away and said, get out of here, boy. So, be a good steward, man. I guarantee you care, you, Jimmy, Susan, lady, you care way more about man than you realize, because it exposed me on how much I still cared about my image, what I thought, and I had to put away that selfish desire, as did Mallory, and that's how God was able to use and bless that for ourselves and for you guys, so don't make that mistake. Yeah,
it really all does come down to the fear of man, and I think to wrap it up on a good note, because it may have felt like, I don't know, I think in the moment, these are our conversations 90% of the time, and we're either ripping into like one another and challenging one another, sharpening one another, or again, just talking about the state of the church and stuff, and how we can help that. We're not just dogging on other people, where it's like, okay, God, what can we do to help? We obviously see this as an issue for a reason, which is why we started this podcast. But to end on a good note,
I would just say, and I'll let Mal go, you are loved. God has such a plan for your life, to my brothers and sisters. There's so much pressure, guys, from the world, and it's so satanic, and I'm very, a lot of times this looks like I'm being angry. I'm actually very empathetic to you guys. For my brothers, I can only imagine how much pressure there is on you guys, and I want you to know that it doesn't have to be.
Yep.
Okay? Like you can make this happen, I promise you, but you are going to have to put aside those desires of the world. Same with women.
Yeah, that was really good. I think to further end it on a good note is, again, all this can be summarized. Like David said, we all fear man a whole lot more than we think that we really do, you know, and we can try to fool ourselves, but the statistics show, and, you know, the more and more Christians not getting married or not going out and evangelizing, like it shows that we don't fear God as much as we really think. And the quicker that we can acknowledge that and not cope or make excuses, God loves a humble heart, and he can work with that. So that would be my first encouragement to you guys, is to humble yourself before the Lord. And like I mentioned before, you know, speaking to my sisters, but this can apply to brothers in the faith, ask God to mold you into the person that he has called you to be, whether to be a wife in the future, or a husband in the future, a mom, a father, or even just a servant of Christ, you know? And I think the last thing that I would end on, because you'll see a common theme with David and I's ministries, is we're going to push you guys to go out evangelizing, whether it's, you know, street preaching primarily for men, or, you know, going out to college campuses, or preaching the gospel to people, you know, just on your day-to-day basis. And I want to encourage you guys to really go out and do that. Like, stop just hearing us say it or watching us do it, but go out and do it yourself. And that's not only pleasing to God and fulfilling the Great Commission, the commandment he gave every single one of us, but that will day by day purge out the fear of man that we have within us. It is humiliating going to college campuses at times, preaching and nobody's listening, or preaching, open air preaching, and somebody's like cussing you out or something. That's humiliating. But you know what? Over the years, that has purged out so much of the fear of man and increased our fear of God and our love for God over time, which is, again, why we're really big advocates for, like, y'all need to go out and evangelize, and that'll really help your marriage in the future.
Yeah, guys, I think to wrap it up here, the last thing I'll say is that with this podcast, and you better believe, I want to make this very clear, Hebrews 12:6-8, right? The Bible says that God chastens those that he loves, okay? So I want you guys to know that, like, I go through a lot of chastening and disciplining, just as we're laying it on to you guys, okay? It goes both ways. And two, do not watch this podcast if you do not want to be challenged. Yeah. I'm not afraid of you guys. I've gone through I've slayed too many demons to be afraid of what you guys think. this podcast will challenge you as it challenges us. And that's the whole point of the Christian walk, iron sharpening iron. So please, before you get butthurt and triggered, I would really ask, like, is this exposing a part of you? Because that's usually why we do get triggered. And I say that to myself, guys. We're calling you higher. We say this because we love you. We're flawed individuals, but we are called, right? That's Titus 2:15, to correct and rebuke with all authority. Let no one despise you when it's talking about putting off the old man and walking in the newness of life, being zealous for good works, right, guys? So that is that. We'll finish it there. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Welcome to the new journey. We plan on filming 1 episode a week, guys, maybe about an hour long. And yeah, share it with a homie, share it with a friend. We're tired of just the hippie evangelical Christians who are too afraid to like take a stance on anything. It's why we have 72 genders and like the majority of Christians are getting divorced. Just the whole myriad of problems. It's pathetic. And if Paul was here today, he'd be speaking how I'm speaking times 10. So would Jesus. So relax. Thank you guys. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. All of our links will be down below. Mallory's channel, my channel, the evangelism channel. We'll finish it here, guys, with the one final plug. If you guys are interested and enjoy these podcasts, you guys can always sow into the ministry. I want you guys to know that Mallory and I are full-time missionaries. We do this alongside our other businesses or ministries, but your guys' support, your gifting helps us more than you can imagine, and it allows us to do what we do.
And last but not least, both David and I offer one-on-one coaching and discipleship. I offer discipleship, of course, for the women, the ladies, preparing to be wives and helping women grow more and more in their journey of becoming biblically feminine. And my husband offers one-on-one coaching for men. And on top of that, we also offer one-on-one or two-on-two couples counseling and coaching. So if you guys are interested on that, that's also going to be a part of my website link down below. So we love you guys.
That is that. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Check you next time. Till then, much love. Peace.